Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the Insight 365 marketing session. We're offering these monthly virtual breakout sessions to share trends, ideas, and opportunities with you and your marketing team. Through these sessions, we plan to keep you updated on what we're seeing in the industry, show you new features, and provide guidance on how to get the most out of the Inntopia Marketing Cloud platform. I'm Patrick Sandy, and I'm the Director of Strategic Services at Inntopia, and I'll be helping run today's session. I'm joined today by Kurt Kinscherf, our Director of Customer Insights at Inntopia, and Rebekah Stoner, one of our amazing strategic account managers for Inntopia Marketing Cloud. Today, Rebekah and Kurt are going to lead a conversation on season pass sales strategies. So let's go ahead and kick things off with Kurt and Rebekah. Welcome.
Thanks, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. Thank you.
So here we are again. It is March already, sort of dumbfoundingly, and that means season pass sales. So we thought it was a good time of year to talk about all things season pass. Strategies, product development, reporting, and just a few of those items. Just get our thoughts, what we're thinking, some of maybe the unique conditions that we're all faced with this year, and sort of go from there. And obviously, this is very important for everybody. It tends to be a huge chunk of overall revenue. It's a ton of cash flow when it's needed over the course of the summer. And we're speaking to some of our most committed guests that we have, and so how we do that is obviously very important. And yeah, so we're just going to go through all that. And this year more than ever, I'm sure many of you have top of mind some of the drama that's happening in the ski industry as it relates to all things season pass. So we'll likely touch on that as sort of a recurring theme throughout. But yeah, so that's where we're going to start. Rebekah, what are your thoughts? What's on top of mind when season pass sales come to your mind this year?
Yeah, I think it's just, what I've been hearing with my clients is everything you touched on, the strategy, the reports, what's going on, like how does all of that impact communication and what, the communication that's going out during the season pass sales period and before. So yeah, I think we have some good conversation points here to talk through.
Yeah, and Patrick, if you jump to the next one, is sort of talking about, where to start and where to get some potential insights. And for many of you this year, it may be a little late in the ball game for some of these items, but I think it's still worth mentioning. Typically, we start getting requests rolling in for, season pass analysis, as soon as the holiday period is over, as resorts start thinking about their product mix and changing things up. But we wanted to touch on just a few key reports that we gravitate towards when we're assisting our clients, both on the product creation side, but also, I think more importantly, the historical migration side of things. So one of the big reports that isn't mentioned here, that I've really grown fond of lately, and not because I had a hand in creating it, but but the new season, the scan usage dashboard has been really helpful for me when we talk about current usage and who's using what types of products. And if you're not familiar with that dashboard, it's under intelligence in Insight, and it's the past scan usage dashboard, but allows you to really drill into a particular product, when it may be getting used by day of week, how often it's being used, but even more importantly, geographies. So I found this really helpful with some of my clients who have been kicking around ideas about other pass products, right? So not your typical full season pass, but maybe they're exploring, a 6-day card, or maybe a product that is maybe a little scaled back from a value standpoint for local or regional markets. And it really helps you get an idea for, what's typical scan usage for people, say, within my county, or, whatever you may consider local. And even, people who are considering a midweek value type pass. You're able to look at when people are scanning by day of week. It's been really interesting to watch how people are using that in their sort of product creation strategic sessions, because in the past that's always been sort of a pile full of somewhat complicated queries to get at that. But with that dashboard, you're able to interact with it and play with it on the fly, and really show real world usage of people in a particular market or by day of week or whatever it is. And that one's been really helpful for me.
Mhm.
What what types of reports do you have you gravitate towards, Rebekah?
I was going to ask you what your favorite report is, and so good to know that it's the scan usage.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
say
it's
favorite. That's been like my sneaker surprise report
yeah.
this year more than anything, because
Yeah.
there's the old favorites. I won't preempt you, but I want to hear yours first, and then maybe I'll give you my favorites.
Yeah, well, I think also just taking a quick step back, it's just so exciting, these new reports that we have for a lot of this, past sales data, scan data. Everyone had their COVID projects over the past couple years, and I feel like these reports were, one of Intopia's COVID projects, right? Like, so we have a lot of new ones out there that I just think are exciting and really useful for clients. So if you haven't dove in, please do so and ask your account manager to help you out there. But the one that I've been gravitating towards this year with my clients is the past pace dashboard. That
Mhm.
is one that is shown here on the screen. But especially coming off just a really strong year in 21, 22, I have a
Yep.
lot of resorts that are trying to like match their sales for last year or even, maybe slightly, increase their sales from last year. So this report is just really helpful in being able to track against that last year sales goal. And then this report, one of the key things that I feel like is most helpful is it allows you to put in a different sales period for this year compared to last year. So
Yeah.
you can really, it really provides that true pacing capability because you can have in those, obviously past sales periods are changing every year, and it just allows you to really do a comparison with different past sales periods. So that's one that I've been really,
Yeah.
really hitting up a lot with clients this year.
That's a great point on allowing the different comparison
Hmm.
points per year, just because, as we all know, like 95% of sales come in on, within 2, 3 days of that deadline. So when you shift that deadline, even if it's by a
Hmm.
week, it could throw off your pace dramatically if either you're comparing to last year where a deadline has already happened that hasn't already occurred. It's going to show
Hmm.
like you're millions of dollars behind versus being able to compare apples to apples with deadlines. That
Yeah.
was that was actually like the phase two of that report that we were able to add specifically because of that quirk. And I'll use that as a plug to everybody listening to just say, when you're looking at these reports and you notice something like that, feel free to send it to your account manager. They'll send it along to me and the report team, because we're constantly
Hmm.
polishing up these reports to accommodate some of those quirks of our industry. And beyond just that, if there's a report you're doing on your own that is, a real pain in the butt, it takes you forever to do manually, share it with us. We're always creating new reports. So,
I think that's actually what it's on this list also, the past sales goal tracker. But I
yep,
think that report came from just that, Kurt, where a lot of our
exactly.
clients were doing this report and configuring it on their own. And it's something that we were able to hear that feedback and build the report and hopefully make it a lot easier on people.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of these reports we realize you guys are compiling for the higher ups or your boss or whoever. And beyond us just being able to arm you with good data, it's our goal also to help you guys look like rock stars. So
Yeah.
that goal tracker was exactly that. It was last year
Hmm.
during this time. People had no idea coming out of the COVID one, going into COVID two, what passes were going to be like. So a lot of people had really conservative goals last year, and they ended up destroying them for the most part. And
Hmm.
so being able to have that really easy report to pull to show that you're just killing it is always a good thing. And it also helps you track over time if you're falling behind pace to goal, if you're gaining momentum, things like that. So if you are falling behind but you're starting to accelerate in sales momentum, it also tells that full picture, because we understand that it's not always straight line from A to B for some of these things. So that was the
Hmm.
goal there.
Hmm.
My favorite all-time report for passes is pass migration, right? It's not necessarily as used right now or in the thick of sales season because it's not the full picture. But from a purely like behavioral data geek nerd out type report, I feel like past migration is always really interesting to see how behaviors are changing. And I think this will be and the ability to be able to look forward or backwards in time depending on where you are in either the January we're building product stage or the May we just had our first deadline type a stage of the sales period. I feel like that one's really flexible, especially as new products are introduced. You're able to see, are we cannibalizing maybe a higher yielding product? Are we sort of eliciting the types of behavior we intended with this new product, things like that. So that's my all-time favorite from a pure just geekery standpoint.
Yeah. And we
It's
have
not.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we have two options for that now. When we have the traditional pass migration matrix, which I still personally really like, but then we have a new visualization that just allows you to view the data in a more dynamic, interactive way.
Yeah. And that's another example of coming from feedback. The historical one that Rebekah loves is uh I call it Spreadsheet Eyes. I'll spare you guys the singing that to Hungry Eyes, but it's just a lot of data all in one place. It tends to cross my eyes. I like the interactive visual under intelligence because it allows me to explore one concept or start at a high level and say, okay, here's kind of what's happening. That particular thing looks interesting to me. I'm going to clear the board and look just at that thing and see how people are behaving. I just tend to get too scatterbrained if I'm looking at everything all in one view. So I tend to like to narrow my focus a little bit. But again, it's a style thing. Our goal is to be able to be all things to everyone. And so that's just a great example of us. The same concept, different view, different use case, different strokes for different folks kind of thing. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm really proud of this report offering that we've built up, and I will, before we move on, Kurt, just give one shameless plug that, with the exception of the visual ones that Kurt just mentioned, all of these reports can be scheduled, and so
Yes.
especially during the past sales season, like get your account manager to set these up to send to you on a weekly or monthly basis. Just makes it really easy, and also like Kurt said, we want to make you look good, so share these up the chain, share them with your exec teams, and it's just a really nice way of keeping a close eye on things, and we can get these scheduled so you don't even have to do any extra work.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's a lot of these reports tend to be weekly for certain audiences, maybe monthly for others.
Yeah.
But it's really easy for us to alter those schedules. So as you're approaching a deadline and maybe things are a little tight, we can even up that to daily because we know people are in there pulling it. We want to make sure that you guys don't have to go in and pull it on the fly. Of course, you always can, but the goal is to automate as much as possible and allow you guys to sort of focus on what you need to, and we'll do the autopilot kind of thing. So yeah, awesome. So that's kind of where we start, in diving into the different things, and then the next obvious question becomes, that we talk to our clients about all the time is segmentation strategy. And I think we've come pretty far from the days of where, a resort has had 10 different products and it was, very difficult for the consumer to do the math and figure out what's best, what sort of suits them best. So I think, before we actually jump into the nuts and bolts of, segmentation for your actual products, one of the things that often goes overlooked, and again, it's a little late in the game for this year, if you have spring pass sales, not if you have summer pass sales, but that people often forget is sort of in the course of the season, priming the pump is what we'll call it for your upcoming pass sale. And the number one thing that is correlated or indicative of somebody renewing a pass is is using their pass this season, right? It just makes sense. If somebody bought a season pass and they only went 3 times over the course of the season, they're going to be doing that math and they'll be like, maybe I'll hold off this year. So one of the things we always recommend is in season, beginning even as early as January, based on scan usage, starting to sort of nudge people into usage, especially if you see low usage. But also, what we've seen be really successful in a lot of places is once somebody hits that break even point for whatever their past product is in season. And when I say break even point, I mean, the number of days scanned if they had bought window price tickets sort of overcomes the value of what they paid for their pass. We have a lot of people who actually send out a little reminder like, congratulations, you've paid for your pass, kind of a deal. Both are very successful, both high usage and low usage. Rebekah, what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen that work well in places or?
I have. Yeah, I think it's hugely important. And I know that, we've seen some people get away from pushing this usage a little bit or encouraging
It's a good
usage
point.
throughout the season just because people are coming off of really strong years. Like we're selling out of passes. I don't need to, encourage
Yeah,
renewal rates. But, I think it's still really important. And, we don't know what the next couple years will bring. And
yeah,
so just making sure that we're not getting complacent and even if you are not encouraging usage for the goal of renewal, I feel like, if you have pass holders who are using a lot of days and getting the value out of their pass, then that is creating a very satisfied customer and a lot of brand loyalty. So even if it's, not for the sake of renewal, like, getting them to use the days on their pass and get their money's worth on their pass, I think is really important just for overall satisfaction. I
agreed.
was going to also mention, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I've seen some resorts do fun stuff with this and really gamify it.
Yep.
Kind of giving badges to reach 20 scans or 50 scans, and
Yeah.
even incentives if you get into that, like 75 scan club or the 100 scan club, and just really make it fun, way to engage your those season pass holders.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned two things there. The gamification is one way to do this without it being like a nudge, which people may be
Mhm.
worried about in like high capacity or really quote unquote crowded years, right? So I have
Mhm.
two clients doing that with great success. They couple it with like, each one of those emails has some sort of promo on it or, like a barcode with some sort of benefit they get. The other thing you mentioned that I think is really, really important this year, though, is I'm very concerned that people are going to be resting on their laurels because
Mhm.
this year was so gangbusters. Um, Anything can happen, and complacency, I think you used that word, is probably the most short-sighted strategy, I would say,
Mhm.
because all of that can evaporate. And I feel like this year was such a pendulum swing in one direction that we have no idea yet what the behavior will be for people on passes, whether that's sort of the whole epic drama and people have a reaction to that and all of a sudden behavior gets blown up and people start going and looking for maybe smaller, uh, less sort of illustrious mountains for a season pass or whatever. We have no idea. And to be resting on your laurels, just thinking that nothing's going to change and we're, just able to do whatever we want, I think is very dangerous this year.
Mhm.
That's what the geek side of me this year is so fascinated to find out, like, was this a pendulum swing in one direction and we're just going to see a total equal and opposite reaction next year kind of a deal. So I'm really interested on that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurt, I'm curious for, obviously everybody has different sales pass periods.
Yep.
So I'm curious, as we're discussing strategy, what are your recommendations for resorts who don't start selling early or who don't start selling as early as the epics and the icons and the mountain collectives out
Yeah.
there? What are your recommendations for those resorts?
I actually had this conversation with a client just the other day, right? we were on our standard status calls that we all do, and I was asking, what's the plan for passes this year? And they said, oh, we're not going on sale till the summer. We don't have to worry about it. And I sort of, the record scratched, and I said, no, you don't. I was like, we're talking about this, and they're like, why? And my feeling is that we all play in the bigger marketplace, and everyone's decisions, even if you think you're isolated from it, are dictated from the biggest voice in the room. And you already mentioned them. That's Epic and Icon, right? And if they're out there with their products, it's an alternative to your pass. It could be. And so even if you don't plan on being on sale until, say, July or even September, I feel like you at least need to be out there in the marketplace with your plans for next year. It may not be all of them, but it should be at least your full season pass. And the reason why I say that is you are in that decision tree, whether you think you are or not. And if somebody commits to an icon pass because they didn't know what your price was going to be, chances are you lost them. So I would say nobody in this industry is isolated from the big voices in the room. So
Yeah, you at least have to get your message out there, even if your sales period isn't happening yet.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and then as far as further segmentation, I know we kind of dwelled on this priming the pump and some of the other options, but I would just say, obviously geography is very crucial in this, but doing that sort of usage and what's sort of the best fit is a great strategy. So using that dashboard I talked about earlier is one of my favorite things to do. So
Yeah, and just, taking advantage of the data that you have. And so, segmenting by pass type. I've seen a lot of people move towards a much more targeted message. If you have a, midweek pass, that message is different than someone who has, the full pass. And so just really paying attention to, how can we customize the message to these segments that we have.
exactly, it's the old adage, segmentation can be summed up by, right place, right time,
Yeah.
right
Right.
person.
Right
So
message.
just,
Yep.
yeah, make sure you're doing all. Yeah, I messed it up. You got it
Right
right.
message, right time, right person.
There you go. Yeah, that. But yeah, I think that's crucial. I think people kind of expect that now. You know, you'll notice it in your regular world. Like, say you get an email from Amazon, or like, say I get an email from, Amazon, or I don't know, let's say like J. Crew or something with women's clothing. I'm immediately like, what the hell? So people with their past products are the same. So. And Rebecca's laughing at me. She
Nice
loves.
parallel. That was nice.
It's the same thing. People expect it now. It
Mhm.
is jarring when you get an email that's obviously just lazy segmentation.
Yeah, right.
So I think people expect it. But
Mhm.
um,
Agreed.
yeah, and then I think that the next step, if you're ready to move on, Rebecca, I
Yeah.
think that we get a lot is sort of this upsell downsell um, topic, and I think this speaks to segmentation. It's just maybe a little deeper dive, right? But I've gotten a lot of questions, oddly enough, this year about downselling, because people are introducing new products. It might be like a midweek product, or maybe like a 6-day pass or something. And my thought there is, I would make sure that information is in the initial offering type emails that sort of describe the full product mix. But I wouldn't be pushing people into a downsell until very late in the sales period if you've noticed they haven't purchased yet. I think the better option up front is really pushing hard on the upsell. So kind of complete 180 from there. Maybe if you have a midweek pass or a 6-day pass or something like that, and you've noticed that they've scanned more than the sort of break even point, reaching out to those people specifically in the case of like a 6-day and saying like, hey, do you know you skied 5 days this year? It makes more sense for you to buy the full season pass.
Mhm.
That type of thing. I would not be downselling you until you're sort of forced to. Um, but I think also what I've had a lot of people do this year, especially with the more, the cheaper pass products out there, is they're reaching out to people who bought lift tickets and maybe visited twice, because that is past the break even point, and reaching out to them and saying, like, because that it's the market mindset is starting to shift away from the sort of traditional, like, oh, a season pass is just for the ski bum locals. Because of Epic and Icon, the general public is starting to realize that season pass is just insurance from paying window price. And so I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to people who may have purchased your window tickets and visited multiple times. I wouldn't hesitate to reach out
Yeah.
to those people. So
Yeah, I think that lift ticket market is one of the lowest hanging fruit for an upsell message, especially segmenting your lift ticket purchasers this year within the local market. I mean, that's just kind of a given there, trying to get them to buy up into that season pass.
yeah,
And I agree, making sure that the timing for a downsell is right.
yeah,
You don't want to come out the gate with that downsell message. And one of the things that I think is most helpful, back to that past migration report, is, as you are kind of getting closer to the end of your sales period, that past migration report shows you your lost pass holders. And so,
yeah,
hey, like if you're coming to a point where you're gonna lose them, they haven't already bought in, look, that's when we consider a downsell message. Or maybe even segmenting, okay, these guys haven't
mhm,
renewed yet and they had a really low scan count, so let's look at a downsell message. So that
yeah,
past migration report, for me, one of the nicest, most valuable components of it is that lost pass holder, so that you can just pivot your strategy and continue to reach them to try and make sure that they convert to some level of product.
yeah. And I've seen sort of, like, if you want to stack some of these concepts together, I've seen some pretty impressive geekery in the past, where once you get down to the wire there, you're actually making, using dynamic content, some very sophisticated
Mhm.
recommendations for the best product fit based on scan usage. So you could do, say you have, a 4 pack, a 6 pack, maybe a weekday pass, and then your full pass product. As you sort of enter that final stretch before your big deadlines, being able to create a bunch of different recommendations where the email says, like, here's your perfect product mix. Um, that's next level, and I love it. And it's not for everyone, but it's something we can pretty easily do. So
Mhm.
cool. All right, and then so we got all that, and then this is the oft forgotten redheaded stepchild of past sales season, is the post purchase. Most resorts say, thank you for the money, we'll see you in the winter, and have a great summer. But I think, this is a great opportunity. These are your most valued guests. They've just committed to visiting you for next year, in many cases well in advance. They get to pad your books for the summer. What can we do beyond just thanks for your money, right? So I think, with the growing summer markets in many of our clients, the low hanging fruit is some sort of invitation for summer operations. Um, Also, there can be a lot of sort of education. So, a lot of people still don't understand some of the operational sides of things. So whether that's, we'll mail your pass to you by, October, or, make sure your waivers and your photo are completed in your account, whatever those items may be, get them out of the way, because you don't want these people calling in
Mhm.
October with all these questions when you guys are already crazy with everything else. So doing all of that. And I think, getting them, whether it's signed up for, specific season pass segmentation lists, all that stuff tends to get forgotten after they give you your money until it's fire drill time in October. So those are just some of the things that hit me with the post purchase. What have you seen that works well, Rebecca?
Yeah, I actually have some strong opinions on this one. I feel like, the post purchase is really should be the next new best practice, and,
Yeah,
similar to like a pre-arrival and a post departure. I feel like there's a lot of people who aren't doing this, and they really should. We saw a lot of clients during COVID when, they felt
they
like it
had
was
to.
really,
Yeah,
yeah, they felt like it was really important to recognize and thank those season pass holders for sticking with them when times were tough and uncertain. But that sentiment went so far, and I feel like that sentiment, outside of tough times can still go really far and should be a new
Right.
best practice. And just recognizing that these are your most loyal customers, they're making a huge investment, and just genuinely thanking them is a really important point that should be standard practice moving forward. I feel like I don't see this enough. But
Yeah.
as a consumer, as a skier, season pass holder, when I make that big of a purchase, gosh, I would like a thank you. And just kind of, I'm in the club, I'm in that local club. And it's just a great opportunity to show that gratitude, I think.
Yeah, it's a little relationship management that
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
marketers we tend to let go by the wayside when things are tough or whatever. It's just like life, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like it's crucial, right? And you see some resorts that do a great job of this,
Yeah.
where they're inviting season pass holders and calling them out specifically to events, or having season pass holder kickoff.
Yeah. Or like a birthday message to season
Yeah,
pass holders. Yeah.
yeah, and it's there are not many places I've encountered that couldn't stand to improve on their local or season pass holder relations, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of industry people tend to be like, oh, our crotchety locals and stuff like that. But I would flip that on its head and try and reverse that relationship with them. And even something that we may view as stupid that pays off dividends. Say you have a summer concert series and maybe you give season pass holders for first crack at tickets or stuff like
Mhm.
that. Stuff
Mhm.
that's no skin off your back, but that it just really enhances that relationship. We often are asked about loyalty programs and that always is framed in destination terms, destination visitor terms. And I would say you already have a loyalty program, but you're not treating them well,
Yeah.
right? Your
Yeah.
loyalty program is your season pass holders, really,
Yeah. Mhm.
and they're the
Yeah.
first ones that get forgotten in a lot of cases. So
Yeah,
I
and
would,
this can be a journey too. I mean,
yeah,
post-purchase is the first step, but you could do like a midsummer, remind them of their benefits. You could do a pre-season message, and even, a post first scan message. Like you could put these guys into a journey. Once they make that purchase, they're in this flow of communication throughout the summer and into the season.
and you just made a great point, and this brings the whole conversation full circle. I would argue that there really is no post-purchase with a season pass holder, or the goal shouldn't be, right? It's
Mhm.
the overall journey, right?
Mhm.
Because that post-purchase becomes the first step to them renewing next year. And when we started this conversation, we were talking about the thing that everybody forgets about is the priming the pump, right? So it really shouldn't be looked at in this seasonal sort of perspective, but just this ongoing journey that you're in with these individuals from year to year,
Yep.
right? And
Mhm.
so next year's renewal starts the second they buy this year. And that's kind of where I leave it. So
I think that's great. Good point to round up on.
anything else you have in your mind, or anything that we didn't touch on? Patrick, feel free to chime in. I know you're normally the guy behind the curtain, but chime in.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I love all the comments, and yeah.
Awesome. Well,
You can tell we feel strongly about some of these things, right?
Yeah,
oh, we
Rebekah, I
didn't
love.
even get started on all the drama this year. I think I was asked to behave somewhat on that note. So I'll just keep all that behind the curtain that Patrick was hiding behind, and we'll leave it there.
Yeah, well,
All
thank you
right.
very much, you two. That was great. Appreciate it, and thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
everyone.
much.